Welcome to AZ TechCast, sponsored by the Arizona Technology Council, with your hosts, Steve Zylstra and Karen Nowitz. AZ TechCast is dedicated to covering innovation and technology in Arizona and beyond. Broadcasted monthly, AZ TechCast invites leading experts to have real conversations about what is happening in the tech sector across the state of Arizona. From regional news to innovative startups, companies, and emerging technologies, AZ TechCast covers the critical issues and economic trends propelling the state's growing tech ecosystem.
In this thought-provoking episode, we'll dive into the dynamic intersection of AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, and international trade. Joining us are esteemed guests visiting Arizona this week. We have Ciprian Sucu, Mayor of District 6 of Bucharest, and Christian Ciprian, sorry.
No, Christian. I'm Christian.
Christian, I'll get it down. You're in different spots. Christian Bacanu.
Yes.
Yes, very good. A member of the Romanian Parliament, and Ciprian Sucu, who is the mayor of District 6 of Bucharest. Thank you for that correction. I'm looking in different directions, but had it down. And also with us coming in virtually, we have David Cook, who is Arizona District 7 representative. We're always honored to have David with us. And we are going to be having an opportunity to have a conversation around all these things that are critical. Leading us in today's conversation, of course, is Steve Zylstra with the Arizona Technology Council. Hello again, Steve. Happy to have you.
Great to be here.
So AZ TechCast is dedicated to covering innovation and technology in Arizona and beyond. Broadcasted monthly, AZ TechCast invites tech and business experts to have real conversations about what's happening across the state of Arizona. And this is one of those conversations today that we've come to really appreciate. And these guys have been traveling together the last couple of days with David Cook and have seen some of the beautiful parts of our state. What has that been like for you, David?
Well, it was awesome. You know, anytime we can bring people at this level from other countries into Arizona and actually let them see and feel and touch rural Arizona and the beauty we have. And I hope they've had a wonderful time.
I have no doubt that they have. And you anticipated we might have somebody show up with a cowboy hat. And sure enough, we did. So that was fun to see that. Let's have each of you start by introducing yourselves. If we could have David and Steve go first, and then we would love to hear from our esteemed guests as well. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, the role that you play, and why are you here in Arizona? Steve, you want to go for us first?
Sure. I'm Steve Zylstra, President and CEO of the Arizona Technology Council and our foundation, the SciTech Institute. We're a statewide organization. We represent about 750 tech companies. We have offices in Phoenix and Tucson. We do public policy advocacy, over 100 programs and events, negotiate lower cost products and services for our members. So we're a comprehensive trade association serving science and technology companies across the state.
Great intro as always. David, how about you?
My name is David Cook. I'm a rancher. I live in Globe, Arizona in District 7. I'm entering my 8th year here at the state legislature. I'm chairman of two full standing committees. The speaker has made me chairman of transportation and infrastructure and also chairman of the International Trade Committee, which these guys of what I've met on our trade commission. Steve and the Tech Council have been great partners, you know, in trying to help Arizona businesses and expand and also help new companies locate that here in Arizona.
Excellent. Christian, how about you?
Well, I'm Christian Bacanu. I am from Romania, Romanian member of parliament. Before that, I used to be a state secretary of the Ministry of Justice and a business lawyer. That's my profession. Starting with this month, I will also be a member of the IT&C committee in our parliament. Before that, I used to be will still serve in the judicial committee. And I work a lot on international relations.
Is this your first visit to Arizona?
Yes, it is.
What do you think so far?
Well, it's wonderful. Arizona is it's a place like no other we have in Europe. It's amazing. First of all, I was shocked by how open people are, right? So people here are wonderful. Secondly, Arizona is a booming economy, and you can really see that. You can see that businesses are investing here. You have a lot of constructions going on, a lot of planning for GDP production. And what is happening here in the microchip industry is amazing, not only for Arizona, but for the world. It is so important to have friendshoring when it comes to production of microchips. So the U.S. is great in doing that, and Arizona is the place.
Christian, can you add a little bit about the nature of this particular trip? Why you've come to Arizona? What's the impetus, and have you fulfilled that expectation?
Well, I'm here in Arizona together with my friend Ciprian, the mayor of District 6 in Bucharest, for showing our support for a wonderful project that the state of Arizona is now in the process of adopting, which is opening a trade office in Romania for the Central Eastern Europe. And the way we see it, we want to do red carpeting for the state of Arizona. We want to help the business. We're all for business, for economic development, and we think that this is the solid ground where you create connections, bridges, and friendship. So that's why we're here. We testified in the House of Arizona just 3 days ago, and we get to meet people from Arizona. We had a lot of interesting meetings, so it's fantastic. And I think that this is just the beginning of a beautiful friendship and the continuation of a beautiful friendship between Romania and the United States. And thing is, we want more of the U.S. in Romania, and that is to cancel the influence that other countries such as Russia and China are trying to bring to our region, to our part of the world. We're there in the middle of Central Eastern Europe. We have the longest land border with Ukraine, more than 500 miles. That is a rough conversion from kilometers. And of course, that other countries, such as the one I mentioned, are interested in expanding their influence. So we want to have transatlantic values preserved and encouraged.
Thank you. Ciprian, how about you? Is your first visit to Arizona as well?
Yes, it is. It's my first visit here in the West.
And, okay, what do you think so far?
I like it. I enjoyed my time here. First of all, the most that I like, and it is, as I'm saying, are the people. So the people are great. So after that, the second impression is that it is kind of different from Europe in how you build your cities. Being a mayor, I'm always paying very much attention at the street furniture, at the mobility systems of the different urban systems that you have. I cannot hold myself not to observe like everything, and there are some differences and there are some similitudes. There's something similar, but the most striking differences, of course, are regarding transportation. Yeah, and city life, but it's, of course, every country has its own tradition and its own way of doing things. I like it. I like the people. I like I like how you design and how you plan business, and I like very much because you are in constant search for ways to develop things. So this is like a state of mind for you guys, and it's something that I really like it.
We could end the show there with both those testimonies about the relationships and people in Arizona and international trade. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
David,
I just want to answer it
please.
Because you asked to present ourselves. So Bucharest is of course, the largest city in Romania. With the metropolitan area, we have around 3.5 million inhabitants, and is divided into 6 sectors. Sector number 6, in which I am a mayor, has up to 500,000 inhabitants, and we are more mayors. We are directly elected, and we have our own local councils and our own budgets and our own projects. So why am I here? Because I was invited by Mr. Bacanu, my friend, just to testify that I'm very interested to support this trade office that is now in the process to be set up, or the decision has to be taken to be set up maybe next year in Bucharest. So I'm here just to say that you have friends there, and we're going to do everything that we can to help to open it, to have it open.
Perfect introductions. David, how does this feel for you and Steve as well when we can have an opportunity to have these conversations? It's got to feel phenomenal. And we've been having these kinds of conversations all through 2023 with our international counterparts. Tell us a little bit what that's like for you two.
Well, what we did here at the House, when the Speaker made the International Trade Committee and gave us our charge, we put together for the first time. There's been international affairs committees and delegations and stuff travel for the government. But what we did is we put a plan together, and Romania was part of our plan from the beginning. And that was to get the members the ability on the committee to learn more about Romania. And really, is Romania, because we do about $38 million worth of exports to Romania, somewhere around there. And it's a large number, but it's not as large as others. But when we look at Romania and the location to countries like Ukraine that are going to be building over the next generation, rebuilding that country, and the neighboring countries, the countries around the 3 Seas, we think that this would be a good investment for us to take a hard look at in government to fund a trade office there for the potential of expanding those businesses in Arizona and helping other businesses from Romania in that region that would want to come and do business in the state of Arizona. So we don't have all of our eggs in the same basket, if that makes sense in today's world. Our economy is really built around agriculture and housing for generations. And now those have changed. And that's why we're here today as Steve and the Tech Council. And what we have over 1,200 defense contracting companies in the state today. So we're just changing the way we do business in the state. And we're in competition with other states as well, doing the same thing.
Yeah, and I would just say that, this upcoming trade office will be a game changer in that it can serve that entire region, right? Not just Romania. But with respect to Romania, Christian mentioned the 500-mile roughly border with Ukraine. When this war is over, Ukraine's going to have to be rebuilt. And a lot of American expertise and resources are going to go into that country, and there's no other better place for that to come from than Romania. And we'll have a long established office by the time that begins and develop more relationships in the country. So it really represents an incredible opportunity for Arizona companies to participate in the rebuilding of Ukraine.
Absolutely. And I think you and Christian have an interesting story about how you two know each other.
I'll let Christian talk about that.
All right. Yeah. It's a great story, and it all starts with this pin. I have a pin here with the 2 flags, the flag of Romania and the flag of the United States of America. And what our listeners should know, and the people who are watching us, is that Romania is a fantastic friend of the U.S. Romanian citizens have great respect for U.S. citizens, for the U.S. democracy, and for the U.S. leadership of the free world. So what happened basically is I was in London. I was about to be a speaker at a parliamentarian event, which is called Parliamentary Intelligence Security Forum in the Westminster. And I had just arrived on that day, early morning, and I was. It was very late at night. We had the reception in the Kensington Palace, which is in the Kensington area of London. And the day was over. I was in the piano bar of my hotel, and I was drinking, how the Brits would say, a pint of beer. So I was drinking some beer alone and was just thinking about my approach to the following 2 days, which were very busy. I was supposed to prepare my speech. And some guy, I didn't know at that time who he was, comes to me and says, "Look, what is that?" And I say, "Well, that is the symbol of friendship between our 2 nations, Romanian and American nation." Well, he says, "I'm from the States. Are you from Romania?" I said, "Yes, of course I am." "Well, Let's have a beer together. And that person was Representative David Cook. He's a great friend of mine. I love him. David, that's it. I must be honest. And Stephen was there together with the delegation. So that night I met Steve as well, and we had a few days when we got a time to debate a lot of issues. What's happening in Ukraine? What is the situation in China regarding the Chinese policies for Taiwan? How is food weaponized by the Russian Federation? We discussed a lot of things. So that's how we met, and I think that well, and I hope that we'll be friends for life.
Yes, and we spent a lot of that week together, lunches and dinners and so on. Really got to know Christian well, and he's become a huge fan and supporter of Arizona. So we look forward to lots of ongoing discussions and relations that started there in the UK. I think the next thing I think our audience would like to know, we'll start with you, Christian. They'll want to know, what should Americans know about Romania? What should Americans know about Bucharest? Christian, let's start with you.
Well, the American citizen should know that Romania is in the center of Central Eastern Europe, and we're in the middle of all interesting things that affect the quality of life for hundreds of millions of people around the globe. Well, just to give you an example, Ukraine produces a lot of grain, and that grain is supposed, and that's what it does today, is feeding Africa. So the way the grain is taken out of Ukraine and towards the global south, the African countries and other countries such as Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, is through the Black Sea. So what the Russians did when the war started was to try to implement a blockade in the Black Sea, and the Ukrainians used the Danube, and they put the grain on the barges, and the barges go to the largest Romanian port at the Black Sea in Constanța, where they get unloaded and then reloaded on huge ships, merchant ships that feed Africa. So that's very important, because the Russian Federation is really trying very hard to weaponize the grain. So first of all, what all Americans should know is that Romania is strategic. Secondly, is that we are good friends of the United States. So we are allies, friends, and partners. So you can rely on us. Thirdly, you should know that we have a booming economy. Our economy ranks 19 in the world when it comes to complexity. We produce a lot of things. We have a lot of IT certified specialists, number 1 in the EU and number 6 in the world. For example, we are the world's most important producer of sunflower seeds, and we are number 1 or number 2 in Europe when it comes to grain in the European Union. So, and also our economy is the fastest growing in the European Union. So that's just a few basic data when it comes to Romania. So it is important, and I think that the US should look more into that.
Yeah, regarding Bucharest, Bucharest being the capital city, we have a lot of students. We have a lot of universities. In most of the study areas, we have from economic studies to Polytechnic University. You have law, so being the capital, usually you get the most universities there because it's a very lively city. We have a very beautiful architecture and very interesting history. So who would like to visit Romania from the States? I think that could be a really good options. But also, of course, we got the chance to see Arizona these days, and also Romanians. I encourage Romanians to come to the States and see, because it has lots to offer. Bucharest has a lot of businesses, a lot of developments, and now we are a developing city even more, because we receive this European money that Romania and Poland are together the main recipients of EU funds for development, and a lot of the things are happening in the capital city. For instance, we are trying to build hospitals, and we are building hospitals, schools, kindergartens. We have a lot of investments and infrastructure projects. So this trade office, I think, it just can be what we needed to intensify the economic relations between Romania and Arizona, and also we should double that with relations at the university academic level, because you cannot have good businesses without good human resources and competent and with the proper skills to serve these businesses. So I see this a partnership for the future, for many years from now on, and maybe some kind of strategy commonly to be developed in common with Bucharest and Phoenix and Arizona and Romania. And it should have a plan, and it should have a lot of not a lot of, but very specific objectives to be followed. And this is this partnership can be wider than trade office. Of course, this can be the stepping stone for this relation, and it comes in the right time, because we have American presence in Romania, of course, also economic, but mainly military presence. But we should also increase the economic presence of the United States in Romania.
And I believe you met with a number of deans at ASU earlier today, and are already working on the idea of collaboration between the universities in Bucharest and ASU, at least ASU.
Yes, there are some contacts already, as I learned today, between some universities in Bucharest, not the main ones, but at the level of Arizona State University is. The contacts should be with the main universities in Bucharest, the trade office is a good idea, but if we put together companies, trade office people with universities having together to develop together a strategy regarding these relations, that strategy and that plan can be followed and understood and can be followed for several years. So this having them on the table will be a big plus.
Very good. Well, two of the hottest topics in the United States, and particularly here in Arizona in tech these days, are around generative AI and cybersecurity, particularly the war between China and the U.S. around cybersecurity. How have you seen things change over the last several years, and what gets you excited about opportunities to address these two fields? I should mention, when Christian was in the UK at the event that he was describing earlier, he was there speaking about AI. And in fact, Representative Cook parted from the group to actually go see him speak at this conference. So, that began really cementing this relationship. So, let's start with Christian.
Well, it's a war. The way you put it, Stephen, is exactly the way it is. It's a war. So China is investing a lot in human resources, in knowledge, in development, in research when it comes to the cyber warfare and about it comes to the data transmissions. Just think about all the technologies that China is trying really hard to implement all across Europe and in other countries when it comes to our mobile phones, 4G, 5G. So the question is if our data is secure. That is the first question. So we really need to be aware of the fact that we are at risk. I'll just point out some risks. So big data, it may come to your mind that there's no risk, right? Hundreds of millions of people are using TikTok, Chinese technology when it comes to communication, Chinese phones, no problem, right? Well, the thing is that most of these appliances, electric appliances, phones, even air conditioning, they are connected to the Wi-Fi. They transmit data to China, and that's very important for people to know. So, okay, what are they going to do with all that amount of data, right? Because it's so much, it's hard to process. Well, not exactly. As technology is growing and developing, computers have more capacity to process all this data, and then they try to manipulate us. So countries such as China, Russian Federation, not India, Iran, and now North Korea, which is a hub for technology for Chinese people, they are trying to manipulate us. That's one thing. Then we have a quantum race for quantum computing. Who's going to have that? First, that countries can change a lot of things, because none of our data right now is quantum secure. Our Visa cards, our MasterCards, our phones, nothing, our bank accounts, nothing is quantum secure. So a lot of things to discuss about this, but we should be aware of our position today.
Yeah, regarding the AI, I'm not an expert in AI, so I should only talk as a mayor. I see it as an opportunity in a positive light. For instance, me and my team, we got together and think what type of services could be better delivered with the help of the AI. And one of the first, for example, we have this public relation office, a lot of people, and they are calling all the time, asking different things. So similar to ChatGPT, program can easily answer all the questions that the people are asking. So when should I pay my taxes? What is the form? How can I access that form? And just one click away, they can open the form provided by the AI. So now we are considering to implement such systems in order to have better quality of our public services in Bucharest. So I'm not being an expert on security, cybersecurity. I look at the opportunities and I wait for the experts to tell me what the threats could be.
David, not only through the relationship you've developed with Christian, but your longtime relationship with the Tech Council, these are areas of concern and focus, and of course, opportunity for the state of Arizona. Anything you'd like to say about cyber quantum AI?
Well, Steve, I think that the relationship that I've built with you and your organization and your membership over these years, it was like almost the perfect great storm. I want to say perfect rain that happened when I met Christian, because he invited me to the conference in which he was speaking. That's when we split up, as you mentioned earlier. Yeah. And the panels they had there, it really was eye-opening, because what technology we talk about, and he's talking about these quantum computers, is that I give the example of what I heard. Your typical bank card, it would take a year. They'd have to try to hack it and all this stuff. It could be done in a matter of minutes with these quantum computers. And so when we think about security and technology, so one thing I've always tried to ask these other countries is, how secure is your data? Right. And we've had instances here in Arizona where entire school districts couldn't get their paychecks because of ransomware. It's a real thing today. It doesn't end up in the headlines every day of what we see on the newspapers or on the news stations. But you and your organization, your people are the ones that are keeping really Americans and their investments and stuff safe today that no one really talks about. And I think that we should talk about it sometime. So Romania, and what they told me is that their technology, and they mentioned it earlier, their tech people there are young, they're very smart, but we can always learn something from each other. And I think there's great opportunities to expand their ability to keep their country and citizens safe, but also for sharing of technology and businesses between each other to make sure that we are leading and in being first in that race or war, as you called it, with countries like China, because what we want to do is protect information, have stability. And when you look at these other countries, they want to do the exact opposite. That they want to attack citizens, they want to do things for gain and cause instability in the world market today. So that's what I would say is about the perfect storm of you being there to meet Christian at that and to learn more about what their country is doing and what Europe as a whole is facing.
By the way, two of our most active committees at the Arizona Technology Council, we have 13 standing committees, are AI and cybersecurity. They meet on a monthly basis. We even have multiple subcommittees as part of the AI committee. Obviously, it's the big issue of the day, right?
Yes. And Steve, look what they're doing today with this AI technology. You know, I read something and saw the other day where that NFL quarterback, where they had used that to, create himself for a video game or some commercial or something like that he had to do cease and desist. What scares me the most is this AI technology. They don't need you and I talking here or much of it. They just need a few data set points, and that AI technology can imitate your voice.
Yeah.
And how important is that?
And ultimately, by a video, be able to imitate you
Yes.
Through images.
Yeah,
So,
I
go
would
ahead.
like to add something. Me as a mayor, our institution was a victim of such attack. What I can say is that if people if people are not trusting such systems anymore, they are not also trusting the public services and the authority. So they will be very reluctant to provide their personal data, and all the digitalization process that we are now having, that now we are constructing, is put under a big question mark. So the implications and the effects are beyond that specific attack. If it really affects the trust in public institution, in a public authority, which is really important for public policies. You cannot have policies without some level of trust in the institutions that are providing those policies.
So you were a victim of ransomware?
Yes, we were, but we got it. We have very good IT companies back home, and they resolve the problem.
Yeah, we just had a cybersecurity summit. I guess it was last week. Had a massive turnout, and data breaches and ransomware are the two number one issues going on right now.
People, as Mr. Cook said, people not always find out. The problem is it is very good that they're not finding out, because maybe they will freak out, and it will affect the trust, which is really, really important. But this subject is real. Yeah. It's happening, and yet it could affect the lives of millions of people.
At this conference, one of the experts basically said that most people don't recognize they've been attacked, unless they get an email about ransomware, until about 6 or 8 weeks after they've actually been breached. And the bad actors can find a lot of information in that very short period of time. Christian, you wanted to add something?
Well, I want to add that sometimes you may never know that you are the subject of an attack. Yeah. Just think about targeted messaging, right? So the big computers process the big data, and then the malign actors, the people who want to influence our freedom, our democracies, our elections, they use targeted messaging, right? So they know things about you. Computers know things about you. And have you ever noticed, well, that's cookie, that's very simple, but have you ever noticed that if you're looking for a product on the internet, then you receive commercials on that? So if you're looking for a phone, I won't give any brand now, then you'll see commercials for that phone. So just for people to understand, that's how it functions. And then if you're sensitive to a topic, then they can input that with mathematic precision. They can input that topic into the public debate, and targeted messaging, it goes down to streets and houses Well, I've spoken to people who do that, right? So they can do campaigning, political campaigning, up to the level of houses and number of houses per street. So the computer identifies the needs, the interests of those people, and then they send the message that is directed to those people, right? So that is unfair when it comes to our democracy. We shouldn't be doing things like that, right? Because not all messages are true, right? Not all the things that you see on various apps are true. So that's a problem for our democracy, for our way of living. So we are here also in a cultural war and in a war of values, because we have the free world on one side, and we're not doing that to countries such as the Russian Federation. What elections are there to be influenced, right? How can we do that? We're not doing that. And the on the other side, we have these countries which have only elections which are formal, but nothing changes, right? We have Mr. Putin in charge of the Russian Federation for decades now, right? So, and they are trying to influence the way we make decisions, so our decision making. So that's a huge danger. Secondly, when it comes to artificial intelligence, well, and that's for all of us, so all our listeners. Try to think how much it would take for you to write a fake news story, right? Well, a computer can do that 50 times faster than you do. So while you're writing a fake news story, a computer writes 50 of those. And then you have the websites, and the machines are spreading that, and there are farms of people spreading that. So this is very dangerous. We need to be aware of that, and we need to address this.
And I think what we're looking at today, Steve, and it is the same thing here in the United States, is where you look for misinformation that is being spread rampant over technology. And I see where X now used to be Twitter and Facebook and stuff are trying to tighten some of those up by having, I think it's dual authenticity, or right, that they're making sure that these are real people and not some computer that's putting out misinformation. I go back to what Christian said earlier, is I believe it was Mark Twain that said, if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed, but if you do read the newspaper, you're misinformed. So in today's society, it's all technology, it's all done on phones, and it's all done in targeting. And I'll add a little bit more what he said about if you're shopping, even your app for your grocery store, right? Even they know what you purchase, they know what you like. You see those commercials, you see those coupons that come up. That's all because they're tracking your history. And no matter what data, if it's your grocery store data or whatever information you're giving, especially if it's your social security number, your banking information, we have got to make sure that private companies are making the investment to keep that information safe. And we've got to make sure government agencies are keeping that information that they're contained safe as well. And both of those things need to be doing their jobs. And Steve, your membership in this sector is what's really the front lines on this battle for these kinds of problems.
Thank you, David. I think we have to do a commercial now, and then when we come back, I'd like to start focusing on sort of this intersection between international trade and these technology topics we've been discussing.
Our streamlined pro-business approach helps you achieve more by putting less between you and future success. Less red tape, lower taxes, less distance separating you from the tech leaders of tomorrow. This innovative ecosystem will supply your business with tools and resources to compete in the 21st century and beyond. But your future is more than just business success. In Arizona, the lifestyle you want is at your fingertips. Explore cities known for their Southwest heritage and modern vision. Enjoy beautiful scenery and endless outdoor activities on land, water, or snow. And if you're looking for a little friendly competition, we've got plenty of teams to choose from. With constant sunshine, vibrant culture, and natural wonder, Arizona provides a style of living that's entirely unique. People from all over the world call our state home. From student leaders who fill the classrooms of our top-ranked universities, to a skilled and abundant workforce that's ready for what's next. To the neighbors, friends, and peers we interact with daily, Arizonans are united by a pioneering spirit that moves us forward. So as you look to the future, know that it's filled with the perfect balance of innovation and high-quality living that makes life better here.
All right. Let's start with David on this question. How do you perceive the intersection of, say, AI and international trade, particularly in fostering both economic development and further cooperation between our nations and beyond?
Well, I think with our guest here in Romania, what I see is that the sharing of that technology and information. So if you're trying to find a cure for an ailment, a sickness or something, and you've got scientists that are working continents apart on their own, then it might take us longer to get to that cure than what we're needed. Well, it's the same thing with technology and what we're facing today, what we've talked about in AI, quantum computers, and keeping information safe, is that we need to be talking. We need to have these professionals in these businesses that are communicating and working together and doing business together and sharing that information together so we can get to the end result faster than some of these countries that don't intend whatsoever to use that technology for the good of humanity.
Gentlemen?
Well, there are a lot of opportunities starting from transportation. Just think about artificially assisted transportation. You start to see that with cars nowadays. Here in Arizona, you have cars which are driving by themselves without drivers, right? So we don't have that in Europe. We couldn't have it from a legislative point of view. So our regulations do not allow this to happen. But well, that in my view is just the start. Then, of course, as David just said, we can have that in healthcare. We can have that in research. We can have that in development, in production. So there are a lot of opportunities to work on that. Also, when it comes to trade, you can use AI. I'm not an expert in AI. I just studied a bit about AI politics and policymaking, but I'm not an IT specialist. But I think that AI can be used in to make transportation more efficient. So there are a lot of things where I can be used, but we need to be careful, as I said.
Did you get a chance to use a Waymo while you're here from the airport?
No, I didn't. I would have loved to, but I just didn't have the time to install the app. And so I used the Uber. I'm a big fan of Uber, but I didn't use that.
Not everybody looks forward to sitting in a car that doesn't have a driver.
I am looking forward to do that. I just didn't have the time.
Yeah, we'll make arrangements next time.
Thank
Mayor?
We have to understand that the knowledge regarding AI is not at the government. The companies developing it and the people in IT sector know a lot much more than the regulators do. So it is very important that the industry sit at the same table with the regulators and have these discussions, because it has at some point to be better regulated. That it's very, very clear, because if you don't, other externalities, bad externalities will occur during time. So we are aware that the industry has the knowledge and about the capabilities of such systems, and the political leaders have the interest and the responsibility to bring them to the same table and discuss about. Of course, nobody wants to overregulate it. No, don't want to have to inhibit this development. So it's a very thin line about too much regulation to less regulation, but the politicians in the end have the responsibility to protect the citizens, and we can only do it together and not everybody sitting in his own office and thinking about how it should be done. And also the academic world, and also the lawyers who know the principles of they know the insights of how to develop such legislations. Everybody has to be a part of it, and an experience that can be developed here in Arizona may be very useful also in the Eastern Europe. Why not? And the same. It can only do that if people are together and have the same language and they communicate regarding this very specific and very this is a matter with a big impact globally. So this should be a global discussion, and most of the countries have to kind of go in the same directions, because if one will try to have a competitive advantage with less of regards to how should I say, regards to public interest and personal life, that would be like a race for to take up arms, and who will have the bigger gun will try to win. But this cooperation, if we are together in this process, EU, European Union, United States, being the leaders of such developments, others will follow, or we could impose standards to other countries that are maybe more reluctant to participate in such processes.
I'm going to turn to Christian next, but before I do that, since you've been here, the EU has introduced the first regulatory regime around AI of any area in the world. The US hasn't done that yet. So it's brand new, and we'll see how that impacts the use and the bad actors as it relates to AI. Christian, you want to?
Yeah, the EU has been working quite a lot on that. We call it, I think it's a directive, has been working quite a lot and hard on that. And people have been debating whether the EU is doing that fast enough, because the AI is getting developed faster than we can keep track as policymakers, and that's an issue. But as Ciprian said, the approach that we need to have is a holistic one. So we need to have a full approach. In terms of academics, that you would call that governance. Governance implies the government, or the public authority, parliaments, governments, agencies, and so on. Then it involves the business, so the companies, and thirdly, it involves the NGOs, right? So we need to have the full approach on that. Then there are a lot of issues which are at stake now. AI ethics, that's something that's being studied in the universities, but it's not clear to me if all the policymakers understand how important AI ethics is. That's huge. And I think that all of us will hear so much more about that in the future, but we need to make it happen as fast as possible. And then we have a huge dilemma. Do we regulate this? Do we create red taping at home while the other countries don't do it, right? Such as China. So it's very hard to give an answer to this question. I can't. And right now, if we take a look at what AI is doing right now, the AI that we have is not a real threat, right? It brings minor punctual threats to the freedom of our world. But the quantum AI that is going to be developed sometimes in 5 or 10 years, that's what experts say, not me. Yep. And I've had a very nice chat with an expert having more than 100 PhD people working on quantum and quantum AI in London. He's based in Germany and Switzerland. And what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years, that's going to be breathtaking. It will change all the rules of the game. So can we keep it up? Can we make all the other countries keep it up when it comes to regulations? That's a question I cannot answer to. So that should be on everybody's mind. Mm-hmm. Near future, I'm not talking about 100 years from now. I'm talking about 5 to 10 years. And the AI that we have right now is like, you remember the 2D images, 2 dimensions that we have had in the 90s when we had the first games on personal computers. Well, then we had the 3D gaming, right? And now we have virtual reality. Quantum is virtual reality as opposed to the 90s computer 2D with 260 colors. That's how big the difference is. It's a huge gap. Can we take care of that? I don't know.
By the way, the quantum expert that you just mentioned spoke to us thanks to David and your introduction to him when we were in the the UK. He's going to be on this podcast sometime in 2024 to talk further about quantum with some other experts. David, I want to turn to you next. This whole area of regulation. As you know, one of the benefits of being a business here in Arizona is we have a very light regulatory regime. And we're all hearing discussions about the possibility of Arizona, attempting to regulate AI. What is your inside information on whether or not that's an issue that might arise in the next legislative session in 2024?
Well, I haven't seen a bill yet. I think it's going to come around eventually. I am running a bill that doesn't directly deal with AI, but maybe it's AI that does it. It's where concert tickets or venue tickets are purchased by bots and technology that is able to do that. It is a problem. It's costing the people much more money than they should. And so we're going to try to address it in this session in the bill that I've introduced. And I got a call from a reporter just yesterday on Wednesday, that had some questions. Well, how does this work? And then I said, well, listen, the process at the legislature is to get all of the problems worked out, to make sure that we think we're on the right footing to address these problems. And the reporter even said, oh, I agree there's a problem because I have been a victim of it as well. Yeah. Right. And we have all of these stories in which this new technology. And one thing, Steve, that your companies and your membership, they get it. But in government, we are so slow to respond. And we're so slow to keep up with the times and responses. For instance, simple things like a brand new hospital opens. They can't get the sign put on the road with the blue sign that just has the hospital arrow on it, because on the checklist, it's to have their radio room up and functioning. I'm sorry, we don't use walkie-talkie radios anymore in today's society. It's all digital technology. I mean, but government is 15, 20 years behind, whether it's that or whether it's radiation cancer treatments in hospitals. So we need to make sure that government is funded, it has the right experts, and we are keeping up with our regulations along with the technology, because if we don't, Steve, that means there becomes victims and more victims and more victims until finally government reacts to what the problems are. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Mayor, a lot of things happen at the local level. And you began to talk earlier about the possible uses of AI. Could you address that further? Talk a little bit more about what the needs are, what the ideas are that you sir, your audience are the citizens of Bucharest in your district, and how are you looking to utilize AI to their benefit?
Mayories, as public institutions, are working with lots of data because, for instance, in my district, they are living, as I said, up to 500,000 inhabitants. This also means big data because we produce this kind of data. For instance, we have this application for mobile application that is used now about, it's called eSector 6. It is used now about by more than 30,000 people being in direct contact with us and sending us feedback on time. So, for instance, there's a pothole. Okay, you have to address this issue, and you have these standards up to since we received this input from the citizens for let's say 48 hours. If there is some garbage somewhere, you have lesser standards, like up to 2 hours. If there is some furniture that was I don't know, vandalized or something, and we have to work with institutions. Our institutions are working together now. So now I have 10 agencies under my mayory, and they have to act together. For instance, we have this homeless person. Not only the police is going to address this, but also social services together with the police are trying to see what is the problem, and if they are taking care of this person and so on. So we get a lot of data through these applications, for instance, and it's so much information that we do not get to analyze it and to create the best scenario for how these institutions should together operate, delivering different public services or addressing different issues that are raised by the citizens. Because we are using this application, we are in direct contact 24 hours a day with our citizens, and I had to, for instance, there's too much input from the citizens, or all the resources of the institutions are going to those inputs, and I had to put to stop it. I say, okay, 1/3 of our resources in terms of money and human resources are addressing the issues for citizens, but the other 2/2 has to go as planning, because and you have a lot of decisions to take. For instance, now we're going to have in Sector 6 3,000 cameras for surveillance in order to increase the capacity of the local police to address. Some of them have these predefined scenarios. If somebody just is getting closer and closer to some person and then run away, that may indicate a robbery. And you have these identified scenarios that we are using with these cameras in order to increase the capacity and the operability of the local police. This is just one of the examples. We have all those cameras around schools, and we are investing more and more in new technologies that always produce data that always have to be analyzed, because if not, you're not taking the most out of it, in order to have better and more qualitative public services for our citizens.
So you've inspired my final question, because we're just about out of time. And this is really for all of you. To my chagrin, the United States has not implemented privacy policy yet. And as a consequence of that, individual states have created their own privacy policies. And for my members, that's a problem, right? Because every state they're working in now, they have to deal with a different set of rules and regulations. There's a significant tension between cybersecurity and privacy. Can you discuss? And again, Arizona hasn't done anything on privacy because we tend to be very light on regulations, which is really good for our business community. But can you talk a little bit about this tension between privacy and cybersecurity?
Yes, this tension exists, and some of the journalists asked me about this. Of course, accountability is very important, and it's very important. Regulation is really, really important here. For instance, I had to pass a bill that acknowledging that no facial recognition software will be going to be used in those 3,000 cameras that we are now implementing across the district. And I'm in touch with other state agencies like Civil Secret Service and National Police in order to regulate how do they have access to this data, because they don't have access to this data in real time as we do, but they have to ask permission first, and there is specific situations in which they have access to the data. So first of all, we have to have this bill very well regulated, and we do not have expertise, and we are doing. It is going to be a process as learning as doing. And after that, we have to train the people and to have to audit the systems who has access to what kind of information, because of course people are concerned that that information will be misused. For instance, you can see a plate of car, and somebody know where you are heading at. And of course, you have to protect these liberties. And without regulation, you cannot protect liberties.
Christian?
Well, we got to understand that data is merchandise, right? So data is merchandise, it's an asset, and a lot of people want to use it. Have you ever asked yourself why a lot of companies are requesting for your data and then they give you some discounts? Why is that happening, right? Do they just need to have the data on their servers and just pay people to do maintenance of servers and buy the servers? Just a waste of money? No, it's because data is so important. And the way you use it is even more important. So regulation is important, because if you don't use it right, it's very dangerous. So it's like medicine. For some medicine, you need a prescription and you need regulation.
Representative Cook, you want to take us home?
I'd love to. So I think we're all in agreement. You can have both. You can have security, right? You can have security and you can have regulation that protects your security and your individual rights and your data. And I think that's where we should be charged as elected officials, is to come up with that. But we can't do it alone, Steve. So when we think about these AI technologies, and you brought two things in, you said the federal government's not doing it, so some states are. That's not good for our country either, because as these companies, they have to stop. And I go back to the trains that take our merchandise across this country. If the rules are different in each state, do they got to stop at the border of the state and then put another conductor on and do things different? They need to be able to travel to the states. Well, it's the same thing with the technology industries and business of technology. You need to be able to freely operate across all states legally. But what we need to do is, instead of piecemealing it together by states, that's how it's going to start. And probably going to have to force the federal government in to put their umbrella over all states to operate under, kind of like the motor vehicle department and things like that. So I would ask that if the private sector would bring us something that is workable, then let's move it together and let's work it out together so we have the best policy and regulations that also protect our individual liberties and freedoms.
By the way, we have a section in our 2024 public policy guide on data privacy, and I can guarantee you we are constantly encouraging our congressional delegation to move on this issue. So it's really Congress who has responsibility to do something in this area. Well, I want to thank you all for being here today. I think this has been an incredible discussion, and with that, I'll ask Karen to take us home.
Absolutely. Appreciate all of you being here today. And if you are interested in being a podcast participant or sponsor for Council's AZ TechCast, then do contact marketing at aztechcouncil.org to learn more about the opportunities to further position you as a tech expert, influencer, and innovator. And again, we cannot have this programming without, of course, the Arizona Technology Council and the Arizona Commerce Authority as well. So we always appreciate our sponsors. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for joining AZ TechCast.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of AZ TechCast with Arizona Technology Council, featuring leading tech and business experts that help influence and shape our great state and the industries they serve.